The events of our movie today begin in London with an old man named Quan who is waiting for his daughter to graduate from school. As soon as he sees her going out with a young man, her classmate, he gets upset but he hides his feelings. She shows him the graduation dress she likes and asks him to take her to a clothing store quickly so she can buy the dress. Quan moves house. While he is on the road, he asks her about her classmates and when she will meet him. He learns that his name is Chubby and he is a member of the football team and that he will meet her on the day of the New Year's party. He learns that he rented a car especially to take her with him. At that moment, Quan worries about her, but Van reassures herself and they learn that he also rented her with the driver. After that, they arrive at the store and Van quickly gets out of the car and asks Quan to wait for her. At that moment, she bumps into the young man who gets off his motorcycle and falls from a key. As soon as Van enters the store and Quan moves in the car, another car suddenly appears. And suddenly his car crashes and a new bomb explodes and destroys the whole place and Quan is severely injured in his face. But he doesn't care what pen he has in his hand and runs to a clothing store to check on his daughter. After that, we go to a large newspaper and see a large number of journalists sitting and working, and among them is a journalist named Ian. Suddenly, a call comes to him from an unknown source and they tell him that they are a terrorist group called the Armed Wing of the Real IRA and he learns that they are responsible for the bombing. Here we learn that next to the clothing store was a large British bank and the bomb was planted in it. They tell him that its code is called Phoenix. He also assures him that they will continue to target all British banks as long as they support the illegal occupation of Northern Ireland. So he goes to the president and tells him what happened. At that time, the president gets scared and they know that this will end the peace treaty. He goes out to tell all the journalists the information they received and they pass by and tell him who this terrorist group is. They are really the Irish army and not a group affiliated with ISIS or Al-Qaeda. In Beit Harak, Ian goes to the explosion site and starts filming the victim and the killers. Among them is Quan, who is hugging his daughter inside the shop and crying. All the news channels start broadcasting the event. Then we see the young men behind the explosion watching the news. In the middle, the young man who was driving the motorcycle asks them how many people died. They tell his colleague that he killed 12 people and 36 are in the hospital. At that moment, their colleague tells them that they must leave the hotel quickly because the police are searching all the hotels and guest houses in London. But their leader objects and they find out that they are safe as long as they do not go outside. After that, we go to Northern Ireland, specifically Belfast, and we see the Irish deputy minister at the time. His wife, Mary, calls him but he does not answer. When he opens the phone, he finds many messages and acts out the explosion. Then Bar starts calling Mario and tells him that the world is upside down for him and asks why doesn't he answer her. He tells her that he had many meetings and hasn't finished them yet. She thinks that today is the anniversary of her brother's death. At that time, we see Quan standing in his daughter's room looking at her clothes and saliva and keeps crying. After that, he returns to his office. At that moment, Catherine Davis, the British cabinet secretary, calls him and asks him to quickly find out who is behind the explosion. At that moment, Quan tells her that he will meet with the cabinet and he will be informed of the result and asks if she solves the issue, how will she violate me? He knows that she will sign the royal pardon and die among them. He knows that a decision like this is useful for the peace treaty. At that moment, she thanks Kazrin because he served her British government faithfully. After that, the two investigators go to Quan's restaurant and meet his assistant. They ask her to meet him. As soon as they see him, they offer their condolences to his daughter and learn that they found his daughter's bag next to her body. At that moment, Quan asks him who the person behind the explosion. The investigator told him that they still haven't reached the perpetrator, but they will surely know the truth during the investigations. Then Quan will tell them that Van was his only daughter and after that he has no family or friends and he leaves her and they go. And Quan keeps looking at a picture of his daughter and there are two other pictures next to her. At that time, Liam meets with the cabinet and at that time a person named Hugh arrives and he loves Liam Bay. Liam starts talking to them about the terrorists who announced themselves under the name of the Real IRA and they know that they must know if they are really from the army or a group of people who are greedy for high positions. He also tells them that they are trying to destroy everything they have built during the past 19 years. Here we know that there is a peace treaty between Britain and Ireland that prohibits violence, murders, and explosions, and because of what is happening, the peace treaty will be cancelled and a war will break out. He tells them that the British authorities have determined the type of the explosives and he was able to know that they were from their stores. and that they used his codes, and he suspects everyone present at the meeting, and they go through a full investigation of all the stores and their weapons outside, and also present him with a full list of all the weapons in the stores. So he understands that in return for their efforts they will live in peace. We then go to the counterterrorism command in London, and we see Officer Bromley reviewing all the surveillance cameras that were present at the explosion site. He is able to know that the person behind the explosion is the young man who was riding the motorcycle. When he searches for the motorcycle and finds out that it was stolen, the barrel gets a call and is unlocked when he finds out that Quan is there. He gives it to him, and Bromley goes out to meet him in his office. He confirms to him that he is investigating the incident to find out who stole his daughter's papers. Bia tells him that the case is difficult and that terrorists are difficult to catch at that time. Quan begs to find them quickly and arrest them. So he gives him all the money he has to give him. He has a list of their names. But Bromley refuses to take them, and they know that what he is doing is forbidden, and he asks him to be patient until they arrest them. So ask him how many years you have been in London, and by then Quan will know that he has been there since 1984 until he became a British citizen. Here we know that Quan is from China, specifically a country called Guangxi, and he worked in a country called Saigon after the war, and then he fled with his wife and daughters to Singapore and then London. So he also found out that he had 2 daughters other than Van, and unfortunately they were killed during their escape by the Thai pirates. As for his wife, she died while giving birth to Van, and with Van's death he was left alone. So AZR sold Bromley for talking about his wife and daughters, and Peter did not come again until they found the terrorists. So they thanked Quan for meeting him and left him and went away. After 3 weeks of greetings, the police were unable to reach any information about the terrorists. At this time, we see Quan is searching the internet for any information when he hears Liam on a TV show and believes him when he finds out that he was a former commander in Zain Fin and a member of the IRA and participated in previous bombings. Here his assistant enters and takes a picture of him and tells him that he can't stay without food and drink like this. At that time, Quan decides to call him. The next day, he calls him and asks his secretary to allow him to talk to him. Liam agrees and answers him. At that time, Quan asks him about the names of the terrorists. Liam assures him that he doesn't believe him because he is an influential person and definitely knows who did it. Liam ends the call. At that time, Quan burns a picture of his daughter and wife, and Baker remembers that his assistant enters and asks him to stop what he is doing and assures him that he has no intention of dying. At that time, Quan gives her the contract for the restaurant and knows that he put it in her name, but she refuses to take it. She goes to the closet to collect his clothes to take them with her to her house, and when she turns around, she is shocked when she finds that he has completely disappeared from the room. She keeps calling him. Then she hears his voice while he is starting the car and tries to call him, but he does not answer her. He goes to buy a new phone and breaks his phone and old line. He comes back to get his clothes and leaves. She wants to help him, to stop him, but she cannot. He travels to Northern Ireland and leaves the port of Larne in his car. He keeps driving his car until he reaches a certain house and asks his girlfriend to rent a room in it. The next day, he goes to Liam's office and asks to meet him, and when the secretary refuses, he shouts and insists on meeting him. At that moment, the guards open the door and he stops with a knife. Liam comes out to his voice and agrees to meet him. At that moment, Quan asks him again to give him the names of the terrorists and gives him the article that says that he was a member of the Irish army, had been on the run for 30 years and was imprisoned for his actions. Since he left, he has been fighting violence and making peace. They know that he doesn't know them, but Callan doesn't believe him and threatens to change his mind soon. He thanks him for meeting him and leaves. He goes down and enters the ministry bathroom. He raises 2 bottles with a rope and hangs them in the bathroom. He puts a cigarette in a matchbox on them. As soon as he leaves the place, the bottles explode and there is a strong explosion. He gets scared. After that, the forensics team arrives to locate the place and informs the officer that the bomb was just a warning. They ask who he suspects. They convince Cowan not to suspect them and give him his card. They know that he will announce to the press that the explosion was due to a gas leak. He leaves and leaves. Here, Cowan calls him and asks him, "Have you changed your mind, or are you still here?" Liam makes him understand that he doesn't really know them and gets angry at Quan and closes the road. Liam orders his men to quickly search all the hotels and guest houses until they catch him. Then he calls his nephew Sean, who lives in New York, and asks him to travel to him quickly. The next day, we see Quan in his room preparing a new bomb. At the same time, Liam's men find a bomb in the gas tank of his car with a message from Quan asking him for names. They go to Liam and get to know him. At that moment, one of his men calls him and learns that he knows his location. So, he orders them to arrest him and return him to his country. Here, Kasreen calls him and learns that she heard about the explosion that happened in his office bathroom. So, Liam tells her about Quan and asks what she did with the royal pardon. They know that there are many people who object, but if the terrorists bring them everything, it will turn to his advantage. At that moment, Liam tells her that he has a plan and it will be useful at that time. Liam's men attack the house, and when Quan senses them, he hides the tools he uses to make bombs and quickly escapes through the window. Liam's men chase him and try to catch him, but Quan hits them one by one. He runs and jumps from the stairs and gets into a fight with them, getting injured until he manages to escape from them. When Liam sees his men, he gets angry with them because they are unable to deal with an old Senegalese man. At that moment, he worries about his wife and orders her to pack her bags so that they can take her to the farm. At that moment, Sean arrives and Mary is very happy when she sees him. At that moment, he welcomes Liam and asks him to help him with the explosion that happened in London. They tell Sean that the Northerners are upset because of the women and children who died in the explosion. He travels to London and meets with Detective Bromley to assure him that they have nothing to do with the explosion and are doing everything they can to identify the terrorists. Here we learn that Sean is a guard. In the Royal Irish Regiment, he was decorated a lot for his bravery, and because of his reputation, they believed and respected Bromley. At night, Quan returns to the house he rented and beats up the man who had been watching the place that day. So, he takes his car and leaves the place. The next day, we see him watching Liam until he finds him inside a restaurant in the middle of town. At that time, he takes a picture of him meeting Maggie and sends him the picture. At that time, Sean goes to the Royal Naval College in Greenwich and believes him when he finds Bromley calling him. They learn that the forensic evidence and his secret codes indicate that they are behind the explosion. So, Sean assures him that they have nothing to do with it and that the spy in the council is the one behind what is happening. They also learn that they have a plan through which they will find out the person behind the terrorist group. Here, we learn that Liam's plan is to create new codes and ciphers and distribute them to the council members. When the terrorists carry out their new operation, they will announce it. The code then they will know who is behind them, so Bromley agreed to the plan but on one condition, which is that when they know the deed, he should inform him quickly so that he is the one who will be arrested. He then goes to the farm with his wife and men, and of course Quan will be behind them. At that time, one of his men knows that they have Quan's tools and they know that he is preparing bombs. Then sees Quan hiding his car in the forest with tree branches and wiping his tracks. At night, he sneaks to the farm and is able to enter it without anyone seeing him and shouts a new arrow. When two of Liam's men sense his presence, he beats them until he loses consciousness and quickly gets out. The bomb works after a few seconds. At that time, Liam gets scared and his men try to put out the fire. Liam orders his guard to send more men and tells you that he underestimated Quan's capabilities. At that time, Mary gets angry at what is happening and they know that she will travel to stay with her daughter is in London. At the same time, we see the terrorists preparing a new bomb in the form of a lightweight laptop battery to pass the scanning safely. Here we know that they will blow up the plane in which the British Royal Fleet will board. So a message came to them to change the code. At that time, Maggie gets to know Liam on the eve of the attack about the journalist Ian. The next day, Liam learns from his guard that he brought 6 more men and they are on their way to the farm, and Liam asks his driver to take Mary to London. So when she tells him to destroy Mary, he gets angry with her and she keeps agreeing while he is talking. Quan blows up one of Liam's cars with the man in it, and at that time Liam gets up to search the forest, so they move quickly and enter the forest, and as soon as they get out of the cars, Quan sees them and uses here Quan hunts them one by one through the traps he made in the ground, and they shoot Liam's guard, but unfortunately he leaves him in his arm, but Quan runs out and is able to hide from him behind a tree. When Liam finds out what happened to his men, his mood gets more tense and they tell the guard that they need at least 100 men. At that moment, Liam decides to send Sean to kill him. At that moment, Mari goes to a hotel downtown and Sean goes to her, and we know that they are in a relationship. At that moment, Liam calls him and asks him to come to him quickly. They know that he sent the codes to the council members. After he closes the door, he tells Mari about their plan. At that moment, we know that Mari hates Liam very much because her brother was killed by a terrorist group called the Volunteer Shield Force. They were made up of 4 men, and when Liam found out about them, he refused to kill them and was satisfied with imprisoning them until they were released and entered open universities to complete their studies. Mari keeps crying, and Sean tries to calm her down. The next day, we see Quan cauterizing the bullet site. At that moment, he falls to the ground, thinking about the pirates kill his daughters in front of his eyes. At the same time, he spends days searching for any information about him. Then Hugh and Payom come to him, and because he is searching his stores, he keeps information about the bombings that happened in his office, as well as the farm and his tiger and daughter in London. From their talk, we notice that Hugh is very biased against the British. Ben knows that they only agreed to hit financial targets without sparing anyone, and Hugh assures him that he does not know the terrorists or their leader. Liam gets angry at him and passes by to find out who they are and end the matter before he exposes him. At that time, they leave Hugh and leave, and they know that he will find him at the farm when he needs him. When he leaves, Liam calls his guard and asks him, "Do you and your men know the location of the hotel where Mary is staying?" And Payom knows. At that time, Liam is surprised to know from here. At night, Yum goes down to his office and is shocked when he finds his dog thrown on the ground and his gun is missing. In the desk drawer, Quan appears and they know that the dog is sleeping, and when he buries, he sits in a place between Liam's words, and at that time Quan asks about the names. So he tells the days that they are from the Irish army, but Quan does not believe him and threatens to kill him, and they know that the explosives that the terrorists are using are Semtex HB. Liam was surprised when he found out that Semtex was known to Quan, and at that time Quan knew that they used it in the Czech War in Vietnam. At that time, the Days knew that he was better than him and knew that he was a war hero and was satiated with himself in Quan's house. They get angry and beat him, and they know that he is not like him and he never killed children and women for his own interests. And he passes by and gives him the names of the terrorists, and when the Days swear to him that he does not know them, and they know that he set a plan to trap them and explains the plan to him, so Quan gives him a chance for just one day and leaves and walks away. At that time, he scrutinizes the camera recordings with boredom and with no luck at the hands of the young man who dropped the keys to burn. The next day, we see Maggie getting off the bus and riding with one of the terrorists on his motorcycle. Here we know that she is one of their teams, and as soon as the bus starts moving, it explodes. We know that she planted a bomb and got off after that. Bromley runs out when he learns about the explosion. At the same time, Sean reaches the farm and enters the forest looking for Quan to kill him. At that moment, Bromley calls Alium and they learn that the terrorists carried out their new operations without announcing the code. Liam and Bayak tell him that no one knows information about Gershon and asks him to give him a chance to know what is happening. Bay agrees to give him a chance, and they learn that time is not on his side. After that, Kasreen calls him and worries about him because of the explosion that happened. She passes by and quickly finds the terrorists, and they learn that she will travel the next day to a conference in Rome. Here, the driver returns and we learn that Alium is Kamar and is watching her to make sure that she is safe. They know about Mary's relationship with Sean and that she met Hugh after she left the hotel, and Liam believes what he hears. At the same time, we see the terrorists deciding to plant the new bomb in the plane traveling to Rome to attend the security conference because senior MPs and members will be on it. We go to Barmley while he explains to the minister and Ksen that through the database he was able to know that the burner was a young man named Patrick, 29 years old, who was imprisoned 3 years ago for an assault incident. Through the facial recognition bank, they were able to know that he entered a bar known for IRA meetings and was under surveillance for years, and met Hugh, who was one of the IRA members. After that, Liam contacts Liam and they know that the person behind the terrorists is Hugh, and he asks him to know the locations and names of the young men who carried it out. They know that if he thinks of warning him, he will go to prison instead. At that time, Liam asks his guard to send his men, Hugh, to help Sean. In the forest in Beirut, Liam takes his phone and threatens to kill him. He passes by and confesses the locations of the young men. When he refuses, he shoots him in the leg and harms Liam by writing down their names. When Liam sees the names, he is shocked to find that his lover Maggie is among them and her real name is Sacker. At that moment, they know that the anti-terrorism police will arrive in minutes to arrest him. So, they tell Alwa about his relationship with Mary. At that moment, Liam knows that she hates him because of her brother's death, and she is the one who told him about the plan to change the code. Liam gets angry and shoots him in the head and finishes him off. He calls Bromley and finds out with all the names. At that time, Maggie is with Ian and plants the bomb in his laptop without him seeing it. He goes to Sean and Liam calls him, and they know that he was able to find out the names of the terrorists and sent them to him in a message. The young man who makes the explosives has burn marks on his hand and asks him to finish off Quan in the fastest time. Here is when Quan sets a trap for Sean to fall into and keeps hitting him. At that time, a very strong fight takes place between them, but Quan is stronger and more skilled. At night, we see Quan with Sean tied up and asking them about the names of the terrorists. Sean realizes that the last message on his phone contains the names and also knows their locations. At that time, they release Quan and let him go. When he returns to Liam, he is shocked by his body. Liam is angry and confronts him about his relationship with Mary. Sean knows that Mary played with him. The next day, she returns to the apartment where the rest of the team is. The terrorist police are monitoring the place and Bromley's men are everywhere. At that time, Quan enters the building without anyone seeing him, assuming that he is the gas worker. He knocks on the building owner's door and asks her to knock on the terrorist's apartment because they received a report that there is a leak. She actually helps him, and one of the terrorists passes by and opens the door for them. The one who informs the police then enters. They tell her about the location of the new bomb, and when she refuses to confess, they shoot her in the places where the bullets were fired, so she is forced to confess. After she tells them where it is, they shoot her and finish her off quickly. Bromley informs the airport police to look for Ian, and they keep calling him until they find him and take his laptop and throw it in an empty place. Then he detonates the bomb and believes everyone he sees. At that time, Bromley informs all the forces about Quan and gives them his specifications. We learn that he is a member of the American Special Forces. At that time, Quan escaped and sat on a bus, and his body was bleeding. At night, Sean goes to Mary and shoots her in the middle of her head and finishes her off. When Liam returns home, they are surprised to find Quan. Quan shows him his picture with Maggie and tells him that he is the one who planned the bombing operation. Liam tells him that he did not want to hurt anyone and that he is the one who executed it wrong. So, they justify Quan sending the picture to all social media sites to expose him, and the whole world knows that he is a terrorist. He leaves after that and walks. Quan returns after that to his restaurant, and his assistant is happy when she sees him. At that time, one of the officers calls Bromley, and they know that he returned to his restaurant. They order Bromley to leave him because he did them a great service and they must thank him for his help. Thus, the events of our movie today end. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel so that you can receive all the news first. See you in the next summary. Bye.